activity pack science video. Today we're going to be looking at our second grade changes activity pack. Here are the materials that are in the bag, quite a few different containers, some lids, also comes with some labels. First thing the students do is label the containers, and that information is on the first sheet. It also explains a few different science words that we're going to be using, but the goal is to get all of the materials, all of the containers labeled A through D. So for the first activity in our changes student activity pack, we have students take containers A and containers B. The activity is called How Much Will It Hold? And we have them draw these two containers in their notebook, and then we ask them to predict or which one they think will hold more water. At that point, we ask them to design an experiment. Think of a plan. How would you test that out? And give students an opportunity to think about that and think about what they would do to figure out which one holds more water. At that point, we ask them to perform their experiment, or if they haven't thought of one, we have a few that we can suggest, but one simple one is to take our cup, the wax cup, the paper cup in the kit is designed to be used for water. All the other ones are going to be used for different parts of the activity. The paper cup is going to be a cup where we're going to have a supply of water to use. So one thing they might want to do is fill up one container completely full and then pour this entire contents into this container and ask them what they think would happen. I put that there just in case I have some overflow. So you have a full container, you pour it into the other container, and if this container isn't full and this one was full, then we can say that this one held more than this one. Another way to check that is to go the opposite way. Fill the other container and pour it into the other container. And if it goes over, then you know that container B held more than container A. So that's the first part, getting them introduced to the idea of two different objects that look different, hold different amounts, and have them analyze that. The next part is we look at the other containers, which is container D, is it D? And container C. And once again, they have to go through and predict which one they think is going to hold the most water, which one they think is going to hold the least amount of water, and then the two in between. So now they're going to rank all four. And of course, they know the difference between those two, but they're not sure how the other ones factor in. So for this one, we need to think of a way that we can measure this. And what we've decided is to use our scooper. And what we do with that is we're going to keep track of how many scoops of water each container can hold. So for example, if I'm testing C here, I got my scooper. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I would probably record this as 4 scoops. Do that for all the other ones, have students give their results, and then figure out which one holds more than the other one. There's going to be some discussion about 4 scoops, 4.5 scoops, what's a full scoop, that's fine. Have students have those discussions and have those discussions with them. How are we going to count for some of those things? But at the end of the day, you should be able to get some data to support which one holds more than the other. So they go ahead and do all 4, compare that to the results. So for the first part, how much will it hold? Students obviously start with 2 containers, do all 4. We're really bringing the idea of volume, how much something holds, and if it has more volume, it holds more liquid in this case. One thing that I do want to share with you, this is something that I grabbed from here to use as a something to use to catch the water. You can use anything you want in your classroom, or you can just use some paper towels, but this is something that I gathered from around here. It's not in the student activity bag. E2 in our changes student activity bag is called solids and liquids, and what we're going to look at is compare the difference between solids and liquids. First thing we do is our solids. We have all the students, each student draw the 4 different containers in their notebook, and on the other side we have them fill each container full of water and draw only the liquid. As you probably know, the liquid's going to look exactly the same shape as the container, and that's the point we want to get across, is that the liquid obviously takes the shape of the container, of the solid. After we do that for part 1, then we have them put 3 scoops into part A, or container A, sorry, and have them recognize the shape of the water in container A, pour it into container B, and once again, draw and recognize the shape of the water. Same water into C, same water into D. Again, same water every time, going in a different container, a different solid, and taking the shape of that container. The third activity in our student activity pack is called changes of water. We've already seen how water can change the shape based on if it's in a different container. And now we're going to look at some other things that can happen with water, how it can change with whether we freeze it or if we allow it to sit out. So that's what we're going to explore in this activity. The first part of the activity is, again, container A. Have students put in 3 scoops of water. Once they've done that, then they have to use one of our marking lines, and that's what these extra labels are that they use to label the containers. And what they do is they want to put that black line right along the same line as the water. So it marks that edge. For example, if you see there, the water line is marked with that black line. And what we do then is we put it in the freezer overnight, or a couple hours, depends on how long you have. And then we bring it back out and we look. This is the one that has been frozen overnight. I didn't miraculously just freeze it. But you can see what happened to the water line and the line. So the water was, before we froze it, there, and now the water's up here. So what we do here is in our teacher's guide, we have the students draw the new water line after it's frozen, and then we ask them, we're going to leave this sit out and we're going to let it melt. Where do they think the water line will be after it melts? And we have the students predict on their sheet where they think the line will be, the water line will be after it melts. So is it going to be below, above, wherever they think. Have it melt overnight until whenever it's melted again, have it come back out, and of course the water line should be exactly the same as before it was melted. So to get the idea that when ice freezes, it takes up more space, it expands, it increases in volume. So that's part 1. In part 2, we do these 3 containers, and again we do the 3 scoops in each and put a marker line on it. 1, 2, 3. It's best if this is flat. Mark that one, mark B. Do the same thing with C, 3 scoops, a line, and then you put 3 scoops in container E. And you'll notice that when you put the 3 scoops in container E, it might not completely cover the entire bottom, which is fine. It's kind of how we want it. Because what we do with these 3 containers when they're all full with the same amount of water is we put lids on top of them. Actually, for this one, we're not using A, are we?
No. You just slide him to the side.
Just slide him to the side. So we have a lid on our 3 containers, and we let them sit out for a couple days, and we watch and we observe what happened to the water line. After several days, students should notice that nothing happened to the water line. The amount of water remained unchanged. Then we go ahead and keep them just the way they are, but we take all the lids off. Container D is the lid for container E. And same thing. Put them in a windowsill, leave them out, whatever works best for you, and have them look at them every day. And what they'll start to notice even after 1 day is the water line will start to go down, and the water in the dish will start to obviously evaporate and leave less water in the dish. Do that for several days, 3 or 4 days, and they'll definitely notice that the water has gone, and we can bring in the idea of where the water go. It went into the air as part of evaporation, and that's another one of the properties of water and one of the different changes that can happen with water. Hey, and don't forget to check out our teacher resources page. There you'll find lots of resources for you to use, including slide decks, literacy connections, student activity sheets, lots of things to help make these activities come alive in your classroom. Thanks.